how I used the Be Helpful Keystone habit to fix a failing million-dollar project. So an organization that I worked for was struggling to complete a high-risk, enterprise-wide software project. So the team of in-house programmers were fighting scope creep and missed deadlines and inconsistent quality. Now, price quotes from software vendors to provide the same solution came in at over $1 million US. Now, one key stakeholder described the project as a train wreck. The organization decided to continue with the project in-house, and I was given a sole directive: change the approach and make the project successful. So here's how I used the Be Helpful Keystone habit and the encourage barrier problem-solving questions to save the project and improve my leadership skills. So number one, define the critical problems. So we had a feature list that kept growing, existing code that was never finished or was rewritten. All desired functionality was considered important. Prioritization and governance followed the he who shouts loudest and longest model. The only communication between the project manager, sponsor, and key stakeholders had been the weekly status meeting, and the whole team was working hard, but there was a sense the project would never end. So number two, build relationships. So ProSci, a leading change management organization, have found with extremely effective sponsorship, projects were almost 3 times more likely to meet or exceed project objectives than projects with very ineffective sponsorship. How could I encourage trust in the process and build effective relationships with everyone involved? So the path to my desk from the company car park took me straight past the front office of the sponsors department, and it was easy for me to visit her first thing in the morning when I knew that she would be available and before her calendar was full for the day. Now, this removed the barrier of never being able to meet due to her calendar. So there was no more, I can't meet this week, my calendar's full of back-to-back meetings. How about next week? So these impromptu sessions, they suited her no-nonsense style, and they quickly became a welcome part of her daily routine, because each demonstration was concise and informative, and there was no fluff or wasting time. This meant that when the sponsor and I sat down for our weekly status meeting with the key stakeholders, there were no surprises for the sponsor. So when I needed to discuss problems in the meeting, I would start with, I've talked to the sponsor, and this is what we are thinking. And so this partnership was also obvious to the development team, who began to trust me to get the accurate answers they needed when they needed them, or even before they knew they needed them. So the third thing I did was simplify processes, understand client needs, and provide better project management to deliver the solutions. So the project needed solid documentation, and it needed to be easy to access, review, and understand, and importantly, maintain. So how could I encourage the creation of an accurate requirements list, prevent scope creep, and improve the quality of launched features? Well, I removed the excessive procedures and made the process of managing the project accessible to all and efficient. So documents and processes that did not move the project forward were abandoned. So the objectives and benefits behind those that remained were clear and easy to understand. So I moved the features from a flat list in a Word doc to a visual medium with annotated mock-ups of the software's interface. Now each mock-up noted how the features should function for the user and what they needed to do in the underlying infrastructure. Now this highly visual approach acted as an accurate translator between business needs and technical specifications. Now both the project team and the key stakeholders could use and understand the same document. So we saw how all the parts connected, which features were straightforward to program and which would require considerable time and effort. And the result was the correct prioritization of features and user stories. Now another benefit was being able to add new features to the schedule without causing disruption and frustration. So when functionality needed to be changed or added, its impact on the existing software and workloads was easy to see and to make decisions around. And with the help of the senior programmer, I introduced an efficient, agile approach which enabled us to plan and track sprints with clear objectives and achievable workloads. In fact, a strict coding process covering version control, testing, and release management also drastically improved the quality of launched functionality. So that leads us to the fourth part, right, which is a successful project delivery. And so with the combination of stable specifications and accurate user stories, our output increased and the quality went up. Importantly, we knew when we had crossed the finish line, because we had helpful and accurate documentation, because we simplified the processes around gathering and recording the data. And so this meant our documentation was usable and trustable. And the result was on-time delivery of sprints, phases, and the end product. So we went from train wreck to light at the end of the tunnel. So 3 critical actions that made the project a success. So number 1, as the project manager, thinking and acting differently to the previous approach that had caused the major problems. Number 2, building trusting relationships and encouraging collaboration with the sponsor, stakeholders, and project team. And then number 3, demonstrating that I was critical to the success of the project by following through on promises made, providing accurate answers, and being open to new ideas that would benefit the whole project. Positive impacts that the Be Helpful Keystone habit had on the wider organisation. So my starting point was to encourage people to work with me and follow my leadership. So the behaviours that I developed to achieve this resulted in a removal of silos and stronger relations across multiple areas of the organisation, improved project planning, documentation and execution practices that were also utilised on other projects. And I also created a lasting cultural change in the team, going from frustration and stress to pride and satisfaction and a sense of balance. Turning around this project from train wreck to success is one of the proudest moments in my long career. Why? Because I was the project manager when it was failing. And I was also the project manager when it succeeded. And the 3 most important lessons that I learned from this: it is people that make the difference, not always processes. When you think and act differently, you can reap great rewards. And seeing things from a different perspective and following through leads to phenomenal growth. So it's this project that launched me towards becoming a unicorn employee and the leader that others naturally follow. And all of my subsequent projects have continued to be successful because I continue to be helpful. So if I can go from 0 to hero, you can too. I'm Paul Fleming McCullagh. Be helpful.